Hello, this video, as promised, it's about how you develop your project, the research project that we talked about it. And you remember this will count for around 15% of the whole course. So I hope you pay attention to that, you put enough effort to learn from it, because the idea of bringing the project into the syllabus of this course is to let you understand the process of data-driven decision making, instead of just going through a couple of slides and how to analyze data. It would be very helpful to everyone to know the process, or to go through the process from the beginning until the end, where you are recommending a couple of actions or interventions to be taken by the stakeholders. So this is the project that you need to work on it, and each team was assigned like a kind of research question, and your task is to find the answer, as well as recommendations and actions that should the stakeholder implement in order to improve the performance of whatever system you are working on. So this is a very important point, and I hope you guys pay attention to this and do your best to learn from this process. One of the very critical point is to define the dependent variable first. So based on the research question that you have, you need to agree on what is the dependent variable that we as a team want to improve, or first to measure and also to benchmark the performance of the unit we are talking about, and as well as to understand how to improve this dependent variable. Definitely, as you understand as well, this dependent variable is not isolated. This dependent variable, like the case of Sphinx, I was talking about satisfaction of customers. Then it looks like the satisfaction in this case could play a role of being the dependent variable. So in this case, once you agree on the dependent variable, your next step is to find out multiple independent variables or multiple causes that that are the reasons to change the dependent variables. So basically, you're going to come up with what we call them independent variables, or sometimes we call it explanatory variables, and they have been called or named as explanatory variables because they're going to explain the variations that's happening within the dependent variable. So if you go back to the lectures that I conducted at the beginning of this semester, I talked about the idea of the, if you remember, the pyramid, from business issues to the big question to the framework, and I explained to you what does it mean framework, where I explained or described three families of variables. One of them the dependent variable, and another family of variables we call them independent variables, and we call the third one moderating variables. Whether you have all three in your projects, and usually you have three of them, but in multiple ways, one single dependent, multiple independent variables, and multiple demographic or moderating variables if you wish. Make sure that the variables that you select, you will have, or at least the stakeholder will have, opportunity to control them or to act on them. So for instance, if you happen to talk about the performance of a certain company or sector, you don't really come up with independent variable that will not be possible to change, like maybe some macroeconomic indicators, and you say inflation. So how can the company will change the inflation of the case, so of the country? You can't. So in this case, you try to limit your independent variables within the controlled space, where when you recommend some of them to the stakeholder will be able to change them from within their control or capacity. So again, you have to go to the idea of framework, and try to be careful when you select your independent variables. So from the question, it was very clear what is the dependent variable. Again, you have to check that with your group and team, but then you have to brainstorm what could be possibly the independent variables and the moderating variables. So I would like to see a framework inside your report that you're gonna submit in the end. Definitely the framework is very helpful from the perspective. It tells you what kind of questions you're going to put in the survey. So if you have 20 variables, one dependent and multiple independent and multiple moderating, you know that each question will turn out to be one single question in the survey or the questionnaire. So it's one-to-one. So if you have 15 variables in the framework, you will have 15 questions as well, and so on and so forth. So definitely, in order to be sure that you will get quantitative data in your based on your survey, all questions have to be close-ended. Close-ended means each question will ask about something, and then you give your respondent multiple choice. It depends on how what the skill you are using. It depends on that. You will determine how many choices you give to your respondent. You definitely, you might really see the same topic was researched by some other scholars somewhere else, maybe in Canada, maybe somewhere else. There's no harm to consult the internet to find some external resources to help you to learn the process, as well as to learn how to design a survey. But you need to refer to that by writing proper citation according to the APA in your report. When you use Google Form, or maybe use SurveyMonkey, or maybe some other platforms that will help you to collect data, this is no problem. The only problem that I have is, be careful. I'm not going to accept any analysis coming from this platform. So usually Google Form, as an example, once you get your data, Google Form will provide you with a couple of visualization of your data, kind of pie chart, kind of bar chart. I don't include this in your report because I'm not going to accept them. I only accept your analysis that you will do inside the spreadsheet. So once you get your data and raw data, you're gonna have maybe Excel file, or maybe kind of Google Form, and any analysis you do inside this file, I will need this file including the data. So please make sure that you're going to submit not only a report PDF, as I'm going to talk about it, as well as you're going to submit the spreadsheet that has data and has also the data analysis. Be careful. You can learn of what I'm talking about when you go back to the Sphinx case that I discussed during the semester. So go back to my previous material. As you can see, you're going to do some regression. You're going to do some correlations. We're going to have some visualizations like scatter plot, box plot, and bar chart, column chart. You have a lot of things you can do once you get the data, but you have to be very logical, and not any analysis you put unless you want to say a message, you say a story. So try to learn how to use your data and data analysis as evidence of what you are recommending. So don't just recommend based on your understanding or based on your opinion. Your recommendations have to come from the data that you analyzed. This is where I expect the report, the PDF file. You will have definitely a cover page that contains all that contain all of these elements. Be careful and don't really miss any points, because probably when you miss some of these items or elements, it will affect the grading rubric. Executive summary, this is what I am relying on. Most of the grades will be on this part, so if you give me list or pages with only graphs, I don't understand, so you need to explain this graph. And if you don't submit this 2-page report, which is actually more or less around 600 words, to explain the process, explain what did you do, what was the objective, what how did you how you build your framework, what are the variables. So everything I put here, maybe it will help you as guidelines for how to define your variables and define your framework, and so on and so forth. Data analysis, this is what you will see. I will see some of them in the report, and most of them I will see them in the spreadsheet. So go through this data analysis and check what I'm asking you to do here. If you have more and more like screenshots or something you want to add beyond the body of the report, then you might really add some appendices. The important thing that each one of you guys will submit 2 files. The first file, which is the PDF file, which will include every single point I talked about it today and in this video, as well as in all points that are described above. The second file that you're going to submit is called, it will be the same name, but with the Excel format, or maybe Google Sheet, or any other format. The most important thing, don't save it as CSV, because once you save it as a CSV, you will lose all formatting, you will lose even all formulas, you will lose all also all graphs. So be careful when you submit Excel format. Those are the 2 files and with the example, and I hope this was clear, and good luck, and try to really learn from this important exercise.